Okay, welcome everybody to the 7th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop. I'm Rick Crammond. I'm the co-host here with Kevin Devani, who we'll hear from shortly here. Basically, Mr. Kesh is on the road and we're going to connect with him in this workshop. He's allowed some time for it in spite of fishing, shopping for fish and so on in his life. So let's go on to talk to Kevin and see what he has to say. He's going to do a short introduction and then we'll hear from Mr. Kesh. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I'll switch it off.
Yeah, hi. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Thank you, Rick, for this introduction again. Mr. Kesh, as you know, last time my question took the whole workshop time. Sorry about that. But it was really, really fascinating. I want to leave it up actually to others also to, ask the questions, but related maybe to other aspects of what is, there's probably no field or nothing that, has not been touched actually, so, Rasmin, a friend of mine in Stuttgart in Germany, asked, his question would be about the so-called, attention deficit hyperactive syndrome and autism, and it's been, rising in kids. So maybe I thought you could enlighten us a little bit on, because you always emphasize the emotional part of the brain with Dr. Kostova. What does it look like? Why do such disharmonies and diseases, so-called diseases, arise from a plasmatic magnetic gravitational field strength view, as you would say? Thank you very much, Mr. Kesh.
First of all, as usual, we say hello to you wherever you are on this planet and beyond. We don't know when you're going to listen to the next program from which part of this universe. In so many ways, what you call ADHD or attention deficiency is not an attention deficiency, it's a kingship. This kingship comes because nowadays parents have time and the children have been told by the parents on a regular basis, because the parents are busy with other part of their life, like going to work from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night type thing, how much they love them. So, and how much they are valued. Because we don't have the time when the parents had to share time with children. So, in a way, it's like adults saying to another adult, you're the boss. So now boss takes a position, dictates a position, and then this dictation position allows the child to take over the whole structure of the family in a different form. But we don't look at the child because as a child is small in size or whatever. The child in his mind, in his brain, considers himself as the boss. But this is his perception, not the perception of the family or friends. And when you're a boss, you give orders, and orders has to be carried out. And when the orders are not carried out, you make sure you are heard that your orders are carried out. Or you get part of it carried out. So the child takes the seat of kingship. He becomes kings in the house. Usually you find with the second or a third child more ADHD than the first child. Because the first child takes everything, has taken everything, he has been the focus, he knows he's on top of the hierarchy. Then what happens is that parents misread this kingship with a disease. And as the doctors don't understand this kingship, they start using all sorts of chemicals, and up to now, nobody has found a solution for attention deficiency and then hyperactivity. They call it ADHD. So, when you are a king and you're not noticed, you have to make moves to be noticed. When you are the head of a nation and you give orders and nobody listens, so you send your army or you send your soldiers to disturb, to beat up, and to do all sorts of things that their action brings attention to the top man who ordered it. This happens with the children in these families. And that's why we see so much ADHD. Parents compensate their work, which they are too busy to bring what they call money home for the children to live, with incorrect evaluation and giving credit or justifying their hard work to their children. And usually the first one takes it because it's my right, so I'm used to it. The second one sees it as a weakness in the family, so he uses this weakness. When you're a king and your order is not carried out, or you want attention, you make sure attention is paid to. What do? You continuously make different orders to keep people their attention to you. Kick a bucket, throw something up, jog off the wall, because they have to continuously watch what the king does. In a way, ADHD is a clown in the classroom, is a clown in the house. And when he realizes in the house he's managed to get the attention and what he wants, then he carries it out in the society. So the attention, why we see the rise in AD, attention deficiency, is not attention. Attention deficiency does not exist. Position of kingship does. So we compensate for our own work to bring prosperity and a better life to our children. And in some families, the children misread this position. So usually what we see, ADHD starts in most of, or in some of the cases, with illnesses. So the child who's the second and third does not get so much attention, becoming sick, gets all the attention of the family. So now he realizes, I am the center point. So what we call, he takes the seat of kingship. Then, once he sees this pattern, and he goes home, for example, from the hospital, he's still looking, look, I can be the top guy on top of my brother or sister who's older. So he finds a way to get attention. But he cannot be sick to go back to the hospital again. So now it comes with behavior of problem, what we call it, but it's not behavior. It's just that he's continuously going from one point to another to keep your attention to himself. And this going from one point to another, it looks as he's hyperactive. He's not hyperactive. He's just continuously banging, kicking, blowing, jumping, whatever. So he has your attention continuously. So ADHD is not a disease. But this behavior carries into very old ages. I'll give you an example, because Elia and Armin and Marco were present, which this happened about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago, we were going out for a dinner together in where we live, and I stopped to put money in a meter, and by the meter I heard some people speaking English, so we started talking. Then the guy said he's a professor in psychology, so we said, if you like, you can join us for dinner. And the guy who was with him as a translator immediately asked, where are you from? Because they saw our number plates and everything else, and we started talking, and he said, who are you? I said, who I am. And the guy said, I know you, the translator. He's Italian. He says, I know about you, I know you. So we came because he knew who we were. We invited them for dinner. We sat around the table, and then we invited them the next day to understand the psychological problems in a space. So he came to the center. We had about 2-3 hours together. And immediately when he sat on the table, he started insulting. I didn't say anything, and then we ignored it, and he got angry 3 times. We didn't say anything. And then we invited him to show him the process we use. And in him trying to, again, being the center of attention, we couldn't be, even he's a professor in psychology, he said, if your technology works, can you maybe help to explain to me something? I said, what is the problem? He said, something private you can tell me. I said, what is your problem? Or what is the thing you want to know? He said, sometimes when I give lecture, I have to cough. And he turned around to the translator and says, you've seen it, that it happens. The guy says, yes, yes. He says, why do I get a cough? Can you help me to stop the cough? I asked him a single question. I said, do you know your audience when you give lecture? He says, no. I said, you subconsciously watch that you don't have the attention of all your people which are in the lecture. They paid whatever money to come to your lecture. This for you is unacceptable because you have to be the center of attention. You are highly AD, attention deficiency. So by coughing, because you can't accept it, you try to get attention. And the guy literally collapsed. Arman is laughing because we were all there when it happened. Huh? Yeah? And Marco started laughing the same. This attention deficiency to be, the guy is in his 60s, 50s, was still carried on. And immediately the 3 people who came with him, and they saw the whole thing, he literally, instead of being the professor at the head walking, he became the back guy in the row. He literally lost his position as to be the professor in lecturing psychology. Because he knew I put my finger exactly where his problem was and why he became insultive and what he did. So once you get into the habit of having attention deficiency, will not go unless you understand that you are a normal, ordinary member of the whole human race. Then the seat of kingship, or what you call AD, attention deficiency, does not exist. This is a new terminology because doctors cannot find process of what they call cure. There is no cure for somebody who you have made the director of the company, and then he's releasing orders and nobody listens to it, or some of it do, and it makes him to sack people, to do anything to get his way. So from the parents who are involved in this process, the parents who have children with what they call ADHD, reevaluate and confirm to your child you are loved the same as your older brothers or in the family equal to other members. And explain to the child that we understand what you do. Because when I turn around to the professor, I start bashing things on the table in the lab, throwing things, and he panicked. I said, you see, now because you don't get attention, this is what you do. You have to do things, you have to cough, you have to throw things, or you have to get angry to get attention. So the consequence of attention deficiency, which is I'm the boss, you don't give the boss, it creates Saddam Hussein's, does anything to get the attention of the other world leaders. That's what we do as parents, being so involved in materialistic world, in trying to bring comfort. Our children misread our love and care with a position of control. This is one of the problems of the new world of being busy to make lives end meet, and in turn we do it. Some ADHDs, Then you go to the hospitals. They give you all Ritalin. They give you all sorts of medication. They give you all sorts. What do they give to Dr. Elia for ADHD? Ritalin, isn't it? Yeah. They do. Yeah. So what is Ritalin? Ritalin is used for the heart condition, for what do you call it? For
neuroleptic.
Yeah, for what you call thinning the blood sometimes. It's a rat poison. Mm-hmm. So the child becomes a rat and the doctor gives him the poison and it doesn't work. This is what we know and what we have created in a new order of life by us being busy and getting abused. We have seen condition of what you call ADHD or attention deficiency being in line with what is known as mother munging, which means the mother, because she cannot see her position in the house, makes one of the children to be sick, and the child uses this sickness to control the house, and mother fans or encourages this behavior of kingship for him to be sick, that for her to have a seat as being needed in the family. So now you created two diseases, two illnesses at the same time. One, the child being diagnosed as the ADHD, which actually the mother nourishes it once it's discovered. For the mother to confirm her own existence as position needed in the house. Read on the internet, mother munging. And these two you find in the same house at the same time. The child is not actually sick, but once the mother sees by the child being sick, there is a need for her to be as a member of the family. So now you have two ADHDs in the same house, the child and the mother. And this process can even happen to the grandmothers who look after the child. Then there is a need for them to exist, to be needed in the house. So when you have these conditions in the families, as what you call ADD or ADHD, this is not a disease. This is a kingship. The same kind of process happens when people have diseases which ends them up in a wheelchair. A lot of people say, I want to get out of the wheelchair. But in reality, if you put them in what we call the truth system, you find out they don't want to get out of the wheelchair. Because when they're in the wheelchair, they're pushed around, people give them a space, they're taken around, and the wheelchair becomes the king's seat. A lot of people have problem with me when I discuss this. Who wants to be in the wheelchair? You go into the psychology of the person. Accidental wheelchairs and diseases which end up with paralysis are different. But a lot of people, when there is nobody, they walk. And when there are people, they are in the wheelchair. We have records of this in our research. So a lot of problem, a lot of diseases comes out of need to be confirmed, to be needed, need to be confirmed I exist, need to confirm I have something to say. There is a very big difference between ADHD and hyperactivity. Some hyperactivities come through the release of high value energy, hydrogen, through the carbon release development in the new coloring in the food. We understand the full process. That is biochemical, it's got nothing to do, but because carbon is used to create a constant color, when the carbon is used in conjunction with drinks which has a water in it, it allows the rapid change of the release of the energy of hydrogen as a plasma with the carbon. And then that energy has to be consumed or be used, and that use become by rapid movements and all sorts. Color allergy exists, but you have to find out with the parents that allergy, which color carbon has been used, or if natural colors have been used in the food products. Part of which is unknown to the world of science is when the parents use the new materials which are used for dyeing the clothing. When you buy the new dye generation which are put in, especially in polyester, this coloring then is released slowly when the child wears clothes. And then it creates release of energy which leads to absorption of too much energy in a way that it leads to what you call activities which are not clothes. When your child is hyperactive, just don't look at the food. Look at the clothing. Look at the way the clothing in conjunction with the food brings to the child. Natural wool, natural materials like linen and cotton don't have, because they only absorb the colors which they can carry in the natural structure. But when you have polyester and anything to do with the chemical new materials, they have a capacity to carry energy within the color range because it's all connected to the carbon. This I have explained in other workshops too. So you have to understand what is ADD, what is ADHD. ADD and ADHD does not exist. But hyperactivity due to the new, because all the colors more or less at the moment, which you see in the food and clothing, are created out of the carbon which comes from the coal from the mine. If you go and study, 90% of the coloring which is used in the West, it comes through that process, and that process is a carbon, because of the color spectrum, carries different energies. Because if you understand the structure of, now we understand the position of the GANs and the play which the carbon does in the structure of the amino acid as a GANs, it creates a condition of the conformation of transfer of the information, and in those cases of energy to the body and through the food too. So when you speak about attention deficiency, as we see the rising so much, is to tell parents there is no such a disease. It's a king of kingship. You want to give your seat to your child, then that's it. You find the child has no attention deficiency. Now he rules the house. You become the servant. And then when you look at the ADHD or attention deficiency, look at the position of the mother in respect to the house. Then you find out the two are most of the time linked, because the mother needs the child to be sick to get attention, and the child uses the sickness to control the house through attention, creating false attentions. So now the mother becomes responsible to look out, and you see these mothers who have this kind of behaviors always are angry with their child, because now it's a competition between the mother and the child, who's the boss in the house. And then the problem starts. So this is how things goes on. And this is what you call ADHD. And for me, doing a research in this for a long time, it's very clear that there is no disease called ADD. Attention deficiency does not exist. Is whenever whoever says attention says, would you like the seat of the kingship in the house? I have volunteers which the parents bring to me, and when I say in front of the child what the position is, they just cry and cry because they know their hands is opened. And after 2 or 3 months, the parents come and say, we found the way, they know what it is. Now she finds new ways to get attention. And then because now they know what the position is, the child literally loses all control. We have even seen ADD to the position that the child creates epileptic attacks because she needs to be confirmed, because she uses so much energy to get attention that the brain goes in a cycle and gets attention. It goes into an overload, and then it leads to the point of epileptic attacks. Because one of the problems is that the parents do not explain and put their children on the table and say, we love you all equal. We do the same thing equal. One parent takes one child to be loved because he can do, and another parent takes another child to be loved. Now the child is fighting because he wants the dad to love him, and the other one wants the mom to love him. So now the problem starts. ADD is a family problem. It has to be sorted with an open mind, with the family, sitting and discussing and putting on the table with the children. The time you spend trying to get our attention and to be the king is the time which is lost as a family to be together. And once the child learns this position, will never let go. It's very hard. No Ritalin, no psychological medicine, no psychotherapy has ever solved the ADD and will never solve it. Because, as we say in the Space Technology Cash Foundation, we're going to the root of the problem. And this is the root of the problem. There is no need for medication. The attention deficiency and what you say, the hyperactivity, comes because I need attention, so I give orders. You don't look, I bash the table, then you look after me. You notice me. The next second, I'm planning the next job. So you find, to our research, attention deficiency people are 3 steps ahead of their next act. They already planned the next one, where they're going to get attention, and then the next one, how they're going to get attention, and the next one, how they're going to get attention. So you don't watch once, you have to be ahead of what they are thinking. And when you block it with them telling there is no seat of kingship, one of the best ways to stop ADD is to cut the pocket money. You want attention, there is no money that you have the attention. So your attention is taken from, now you have to attend to what we say. Attention deficiency is, you're not getting the toy because of you are not the king, we decide. You see, you're not the decision maker. When this behavior of you trying to be the boss stops, then you get, because we are all equal. Because you create a huge problem in the houses when there is such a problem. Because now you spend all your energy on this child who wants to be the king, the other children get ignored, and then they start the process. Why is he getting it and we are not getting it? So conflict between the brothers and sisters will start.
Can I ask you something, Mr. Cashin?
Yes.
So autism is a similar process, I guess. It's a craving for. Is it another expression or?
Autism is totally different. Autism is totally different. Autism a lot has to do with the development of the brain, and because the brain is not fully developed. Once you organize and make the process to allow certain part of the brain to grow to the normal size or position as they have to be, you find that autism doesn't exist. We have these cases, 4 or 5 at the moment. We've been running for years, and we've seen autism just disappears as you allow the growth of the brain. Because in the foundation, we have enough knowledge to be able to do this. At the moment, we have an autistic child of 14. The child was brought us by the family and the doctors when he was 13, and he was the mental age of 2 to 3. And in 1 year, we have managed to bring him to the age of 6 to 7. because you have allowed the brain to grow in the level, and then they start doing it's, as I think I explained this before, the parents are over the moon that for the first time he can make a sentence at the age of 14. Because at the age of 2, he couldn't make a sentence. He was not able to. So, but then you have a psychosomatic and other problems with this process, which we guide the families through, that the child has been, we estimate he'll be at the age of 10 to 14 when he is 16, and by age of 18, 19, 16, 18, he'll be the same age mentally and psychologically. But it's a very difficult time for the parents, because now in 2 or 3 years they have to do 10 years job, and the child has already been rejected by the peers because of his behavior. So you have to restructure life, and at the same time this should not allow the child to become attention, because now he gets all the attention. I consult very closely with the families in this position. We've done about 6, 7, and all been very successful. And when you open the hand, autism has nothing to do with ADD. It's totally, one is a physical subgrowth of the brain, and the other one is not a disease, it's just a kingship which we feed for the confirmation of existence.
I see. Mm-hmm.
We handle a lot of these cases. It's ADD. I don't accept ADD, not even as a volunteer, as a patient, because as a, what do we call it, they want to be volunteers, because I explain to them, oh, we don't need to say, oh, we give you this and this changes and changes. I explain to the parents, there is no need for such a thing for you to donate any money to the foundation, because this is what you have to sort out. And you find out a lot of children, when the hand opens up in front of the family, they get a very bad backlash from the family, because they realize how much he's abused the love of the family for him to be, or her to be, the boss. And then the crisis starts with the person. And then you find that in 1 year, 2 years time, she becomes normal, because she realizes nothing is less. And we had a case of girl of 13, 14 with this, very heavy, and the parents very rich. They were too busy making a living, and they brought the child. The father said, I'll pay you anything this weekend. We've been everywhere. I saw the girl in front of me, between the two parents. And I explained, and she cried, I'm not like this. She said, but how do I get the attention? Because my sister gets everything I don't get. And then she started talking. And there was no ADHD. So you have to be careful. You work hard, but you don't understand in working hard, you feed the fire. This is what we say, if you have a dog in the house, because we had this experience, you bring a puppy home and you pay so much attention to it, and then you feed it first, and then you do everything to it first. And then we saw the dog became the boss of the house, became ADD dog.
Mm-hmm.
So he had to have everything. And his attention was very nice, because he could look at you, he shows his teeth that I'm boss, but he knew he was so tiny. So he reverses back himself all the way till his backside could touch the leg of Caroline. Then he knew I'm sitting next to us, I'm the boss. And all the barking and the rest started. Even the animals understand this process of ADD, let alone the children. It's how close you be to the top, or how you get the attention of everybody, you become the top. You see this behavior in offices, people who disturb office meetings or in presentations when you attend. These are heavily ADD people. I see them in every presentation we do. They're always there, 1 or 2, because they bring the behavior of the home into the meetings and into companies. You find they're continuously disturbing. Somebody in the company has to get hold of them and say, listen, this is what it is, this is your problem. Here there is only one boss, and if it doesn't suit you, you can move on. And then you find out they sit, and every few weeks you remind them till it goes away. Any questions?
I believe Rasmin asked on the chat forum, Mr. Kesh, can you say something about autism is connected could be connected to parasite worms.
No, this is all rubbish.
Rubbish.
Autism is, as far as I understand, let me say, we explain the position from our point of view, from our research. We have seen autistic children who could not do anything, and in 12 months, they go on their own for swimming, they go 2 or 3 kilometers walking to go to sports, and they grow slowly into their age. The younger you start the process of the development of the brain, the less you create problem in the long term, because then you have a shorter time to catch up. And I've had a child of coming to us in February, actually in November, 2 or 3 years ago, in November, and by February he used to go to mentally handicapped children school. I said to the parents, by September he'll be ready to be a normal child. The mother cried, says, this is impossible. He's this age and he's like so much. I said, because it's short, he's very young, it'll be done. And in September, in July, he sat for entrance school to go to a normal school, and he passed it, and he went to the proper school the following year. Because in 1 year, more than a year, we could manage to bring the process of the growth, because in that case, it was much easier to do. And now he's a normal child as far as we know. There is no problems. But they create other problems for them with the medicine they give them. So half of the problem becomes sorting out the problem doctors have created with the medication, which was not needed originally. Autism comes from part of the brain which is responsible for coordination. The coordination is not there, so the child only does what limited is available to it. And we call it autism. If the knowledge which is within the foundation we can do, that we allow the brains to cross. We started one autism case yesterday in North America. It came through Arman, and we immediately responded because we can do. The girl is very young, is 7 years old, with the age of 2 years gap with the autistic. Just when they couldn't find a solution, and within 6 months, 12 months, she will be a normal girl. Because we don't refuse autism cases. If it's confirmed by the doctors there is a deficiency in the brain growth, which shows itself. Sometimes autism and mental disability comes through the lack of oxygen at birth. These all now the knowledge is within the foundation to be eradicated. I accept them with the open arm more than a man who's got a cancer. Because a young life has a whole life to go through if it's not sorted. A man who's 70, 80 has a cancer, I still respect his life, but the effort needs to be put into it. It can be done in so many ways to do other things with. So any autistic case, we do not refuse, we accept immediately, because I respect, I have children myself, and I know this, every parent's dreams to have a good child or a perfect child. And if by accident of the nature there has been a hiccup or a misorder somewhere, we accept immediately. And we always ask doctors to supervise. The autism case which we're running now is supervised by 2 or 3 doctors, and we are all seeing the development. The teachers, even in the school, see the change. The child can write, which is 2 years now, can write sentences. He goes on the computer fully aware of how he can do things on the computer, which to them was impossible, and they've tried everything for past 10, 14 years when he was, since he was diagnosed as autistic, as autistic when he was 3, 4 years old. So autism is a physicality non-growth of part of the brain, and the knowledge is within the Keshe Foundation. We can do very rapidly, and it takes time, because you cannot push it. It's not aspirin you to get rid of the headache. It needs time to different cells of the brain to grow ordinarily across. Any other question?
Mr. Cash, one more question. There is, you always hear that, or is it just a cliche, or I don't know, it's just a neurological anomaly within the autistic children. Some of them are supposed to be, some kind of geniuses calculating stuff that, normal layman people could not. Could you explain it also from a plasmatic point of view, a magnetic gravitational field? I mean, what kind of interaction has this thing?
No, what happened, we noticed this as well. We understand some are. What happens, because the physicality part of the brain has not grown, the emotional and the knowledgeable part does its operation normally. So because they're not using, because the connection is not there, the tissues are not there to do the normal job, they become good, or they understand what they cannot transmit, but then they become limited or order. So they get connected to the specific part of the brain which is good at certain things, or is responsible for certain things. Then you use it, it's like when you do the multiplication table more and more, that part of the brain automatically goes well because it becomes ingrained in it. So they become connected or use the part of brain which is nearest to the part of the shortage of the development. The habit of the autistic people gives us a very good indication which part of the brain we have to work on, because autism partially can be seen in the blood structure because they are internally angry because they know their capability but they cannot show. But on the other hand, you don't see it as inflammation, but you see it as disorder in the blood value and other things in what we call in the blood structure. So you see the response, they are very aware, they are fully aware, but because that part is not there, they are considered as backwards. But they are backwards only in response physical part of one part of the brain. And you can grow it and they just become beautiful. They are geniuses because now energy is used in one topic which they have the connection with. And they can repeat things, they become photographic because now they don't use a part, now they can use the memory picture photographic. I used to have a friend in university time who was this way. We could tell him what was it, he could say page blah blah, such a line, there is this sentence regarding the reactors. He's a nuclear engineer, he's one of the top world nuclear engineers at the moment in one of the world leading countries. But he has what we call photographic memories going to it. And he could tell you the page and the line where it was. He's a good friend of mine. I've got a lot of respect for him. But always told him he was amazing at these things. And the autistic go the same way.
Just for understanding, Mr. Cash, because when you talk about magnetic gravitational field, what kind of role does that play? I mean, can one say if it's used, if this capability is used only in a very specific part of the brain, that the field strengths are greater or lower? Or...
No, it's just the part of the brain is not developed. Because the process of the brain development has specific steps. And for example, let's say one day when the child was such an age in the womb of the mother, there was a shortage of, let's say, calcium in certain place. The brain has not had enough calcium or did not have enough material for that specific structure, has missed it. It's very much like when you play Lego. If you don't own a piece, but you can leave a gap in there, you can build the rest of the block. But you see the gap. It's literally the same way. But now what we have the capability to do is to build and that brick which is missing. The rest works perfect. And because of that, the pressure goes on the bricks on the side to cover where the brick is missing. You know, sometimes you make a Lego piece and you lost a piece or you're missing one or two pieces, but then you go around it to modify a little bit. This is what happens in autism. Autism is a physical missing of production, and we know how to build these bricks which are missing. We have a full knowledge, and our success with autism is 100% up to now.
Well,
And I accept
thank you for your life.
anytime. Anytime Cash Foundation will be accepted, because, as I said, it's a young life and it's got a whole 50, 60 years. Why should they go through a painful life when it's just something happened by mistake and doesn't happen? If you have an autistic child, we accept it with open arm. We have a donation value for it. I don't know if it's on the website or not. But if you write to the Health of Cash Foundation, Dr. Elia will accept it immediately. You meet the demands of what we're asking for. Our doors are open for this trial. And we collaborate. We have to collaborate between Dr. Elia and the child's doctor, because wherever you are in the world, they have to monitor it, because they change day by day. You see them day by day, and they just become normal children.
Thank you truly, for this information, because I work with clients who are, a lot of them are so-called autistic. So that's good to know, actually. Thank you for that. Yeah.
We accept. If you send them all, the only problem is if you give us all your patients, if you are a good doctor, then you will have no patients left.
I'm not a doctor of medicine.
No, but autism is not the problem. It's not a problem for the foundation.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions, or we had long enough with this today?
I was going to say that we're up to over 45 minutes now. We like to keep these workshops to under 40 minutes. Sure. So thank you so much, Mr. Kesh, for taking time out from your busy day there today and making time for this workshop.
You're welcome. You're welcome. We will arrive most probably 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and by 8 o'clock we'll be back on the line for the teachings, for the workshops. Okay. You might have sleepy people on the table, but we'll still be there.
Right on.
Okay. Thanks very much. Speak to you in a few hours' time. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kesh. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Good time. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Kevin. That was a good workshop, and some great information came out there for the listeners on live stream, and for others that would like to know about this. I've got the Kesh Foundation. You can see the healthkf@gmail.com address that people can write to get their health information in and find out what's involved as far as if getting their autistic kids into that program and so on.
Yeah, and I can't wait, until real, kids with ages starting with 8, 9, 10 up to a teenager or whatever, or older people who still, have those curious questions that they might have had, when they were a kid. So, go for it. Thank you very much, Rick.
Okay, thank you too, Kevin. And yeah, we're in this children's workshop. We would like to hear from more children, questions that could be asked on the Skype call, or even just written into. What's the address again there, Kevin, for the children's email address?
Very simple. It's childrenkf@gmail.com. Childrenkf for Kesh Foundation @gmail.com.
Right. So it's similar to the Health KF that you see up on the screen. It's just childrenkf@gmail.com. People can write questions in there, or ask to be on the Skype call and so on. We can't put people actually on the Skype call because of security things that are happening, but they can be on the GoToMeeting, which can access the Skype call. Okay, thanks to Vince for helping with GoToMeeting duties and so on. And we had some other guests as well. Thank you for coming by today, and maybe we can get you to ask some questions next time around. Okay, that's the end of the 7th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop.
Perception. Not the perception of the family or friends. And when you're a boss, you give orders, and orders has to be carried out. And when the orders are not carried out, you make sure you are heard that your orders are carried out, or you get part of it carried out. So the child takes the seat of kingship. He becomes kings in the house. Usually you find with the second or a third child more ADHD than the first child. Because the first child takes everything, has taken everything, he has been the focus, he knows he's on top of the hierarchy. Then what happens is that parents misread this kingship with a disease. And as the doctors don't understand this kingship, they start using all sorts of chemicals, and up to now, nobody has found a solution for attention deficiency and then hyperactivity. They call it ADHD. So, when you are a king and you're not noticed, you have to make moves to be noticed. When you are the head of a nation and you give orders and nobody listens, so you send your army or you send your soldiers to disturb, to beat up, and to do all sorts of things that their action brings attention to the top man who ordered it. This happens with the children in these families. And that's why we see so much ADHD. Parents compensate their work, which there are two...
from a plasmatic magnetic gravitational field strength view, as you would say. Thank you very much, Mr. Cash.
First of all, as usual, we say hello to you wherever you are on this planet and beyond. We don't know when you're going to listen to the next program from which part of this universe. In so many ways, what you call ADHD or attention deficiency is not an attention deficiency, it's a kingship. This kingship comes because nowadays parents have time and the children have been told by the parents on a regular basis, because the parents are busy with other part of their life, like going to work from 5 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night type thing, how much they love them. So, and how much they are valued. Because we don't have the time when the parents had to share time with children. So, in a way, it's like adults saying to another adult, you're the boss. So now boss takes a position, dictates a position. And then this dictation position allows the child to take over the whole structure of the family in a different form. But we don't look at the child because as a child is small in size or whatever. The child in his mind, in his brain, considers himself as the boss. But this is his procedure to bring what you call money home for the children to live, with incorrect evaluation and giving credit or justifying their hard work to the children. And usually the first one takes it because it's my right, so I'm used to it. The second one sees it as a weakness in the family. So he uses this weakness. When you're a king and your order is not carried out, or you want attention, you make sure attention is paid to, what do? You continuously make different orders to keep people their attention to you. Kick a bucket, throw something up, jog off the wall, because they have to continuously watch what the king does. In a way, ADHD is a clown in the classroom, is a clown in the house. And when he realizes in the house he's managed to get the attention and what he wants, then he carries it out in the society. So The attention, why we see the rise in AD, attention deficiency, is not attention. Attention deficiency does not exist. Position of kingship does. So we compensate for our own work to bring prosperity and a better life to our children. And in some families, the children misread this position. So usually what we see, ADHD starts in most of, or in some of the cases, with illnesses. So the child who's the second and third does not get so much attention, becoming sick, gets all the attention of the family. So now he realizes, I am the center point. So what we call, he takes the seat of kingship. Then, once he sees this pattern, and he goes home, for example, from the hospital, he's still looking, look, I can be the top guy on top of my brother or sister who's older. So he finds a way to get attention. But he cannot be sick to go back to the hospital again. So now it comes with behavior of problem, what we call it, but it's not behavior. It's just that he's continuously going from one point to another to keep your attention to himself. And this going from one point to another, it looks as he's hyperactive. He's not hyperactive. He's just continuously banging, kicking, blowing, jumping, whatever. So he has your attention continuously. So ADHD is not a disease. But this behavior carries into very old ages. I'll give you an example because Elia and Armin and Marco were present, which this happened about 2 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago, we were going out for a dinner together in where we live, and I stopped to put money in a meter. And by the meter, I heard some people speaking English, so we started talking. Then the guy said he's a professor in psychology. So we said, if you like, you can join us for dinner. And the guy who was with him as a translator immediately asked, where are you from? Because they saw our number plates and everything else. And we started talking, and he said, who are you? I said, who I am. And the guy said, I know you, the translator. He's Italian. He says, I know about you. I know you.
Okay, welcome everybody to the 7th Kids Knowledge Seekers Workshop. I'm Rick Crammond. I'm the co-host here with Kevin Devani, who we'll hear from shortly here. Basically, Mr. Kesh is on the road, and we're going to connect with him in this workshop. He's allowed some time for it in spite of fishing, shopping for fish and so on in his life. So let's go on to talk to Kevin and see what he has to say. He's going to do a short introduction, and then we'll hear from Mr. Kesh. Kevin, are you there?
Yeah, I'll switch it off.
Yeah, hi. Hello, Mr. Kesh. Thank you, Rick, for this introduction again. Mr. Kesh, as you know, last time my question took the whole workshop time. Sorry about that. But it was really, really fascinating. I want to leave it up actually to others also to, ask the questions, but related maybe to other aspects of what is, there's probably no field or nothing that, has not been touched actually, so, Rasmin, a friend of mine in Stuttgart in Germany, asked, his question would be about the so-called, attention deficit hyperactive syndrome and autism, and it's been, rising in kids. So maybe I thought you could enlighten us a little bit on, because you always emphasize the emotional part of the brain with Dr. Kostova. What is it? What does it look like? Why do such disharmonies and diseases, so-called diseases, arise?